weird. All right, and now I'm at a good volume. I figured out what the problem was. That's good. Let's read some fan fiction. Uh, oh my gosh! A follower! A follower! Hi! Thank you, Septarian Flare, for that. I I love that people care enough about my my little fun fan fiction streams to come in and watch me do this. With that said, let's read some Homestuck fan fiction. I have some raspberries today. That's nice. Chapter 7: Bones in the Ocean. Dave Strider is a fucking liar. What galls you is how everyone insists that he's not. How Dave has this front of a poker face that isn't convincing to anyone, and so people just accept that he's bad at deception. He isn't. You saw that in the game, how Dave just let himself get caught out on obvious lies. Tells visible for all to see, and you bought it too, right up until you happened to lean just so and saw him put down a hand of utter nonsense and claim it was something else. No one reacted, and so you let it go, curious to see what would happen, and you saw it. The difference between the Dave who is a terrible liar and has a paper-thin poker face to the actual Dave underneath. He lied over and over, and none of his siblings noticed at all. When he had to leave, the alarm on his face was honest enough, but when he returned, he lied to you all again. You heard that guy die. You heard his last thoughts, that he wanted to take off his helmet and be free among the stars. He was weird and out of it, but he took his helmet off. You heard his thoughts right through doing it. You heard him think that he had done it, and then you heard him die. Or no, he didn't even lie. He said Vicair's helmet came off, and the others deduced there was some kind of accident or failure, and you watched him watch them come to that conclusion and left them there. Dave left after that. Understandably, game night came to an abrupt halt, so you're left in your block thinking about Dave. If it was classified, then he could have just said that, but he didn't. He's hiding something, and he's good at it too. You've known Dave's for years, and you thought he was just a somewhat insecure guy with a front that said otherwise. That's no big deal. The same goes for Karkat, who pretends to have his shit together and inside is incredibly sensitive. Neither of those are well-kept secrets, but the idea that Dave has this second mask that you didn't know about means that you now desperately need to know what's going on here. It's not like he's here to ask him. You can't challenge him on it, and it'd probably be a shitty thing to do anyway. Dave might have been lying about how Vicair died but he was clearly shaken up by it. No, if you want information, then you're going to have to be more roundabout in how you get it, and since computers are your skill set, that's what you're going to do. You look up everything about Vicair Ratite. His HR file isn't terribly hard to hack into, and it gives you enough to read through. He's a few years older than you, works in tech and external ship maintenance, but also general repair guy for a lot of the bots that work on the ship. He applied to be a sailor, applied multiple times actually. He's never been accepted, and judging by the timeline, you'd think his work shifted to outside the ship so that he could show that he was capable of doing work in space. A year ago, he got put on the reserve list for sailors, but he's still never gone anyway. You frown as you read. He was assigned to the upcoming mission to Somnos. That's weird. It felt to you like Vicaire willingly took his helmet off. It was intentional. You're sure of it. But it sounds like all he wanted was to be a sailor, and it's really odd that he'd be this close to his dream and suddenly decide to space himself. Could it be foul play then? Looking through his HR records, there's no hint that he had a grudge to anyone or anyone held one against him. His work performance evaluation lists him as being an enthusiastic and friendly guy. No one's ever said a bad word about him. Curiously, you look at the suit he last checked out and trace back its maintenance history. It was checked the day before yesterday and passed every test. It wasn't one of the standard size spacesuits. It was a custom fit for him, so there shouldn't have been any issue from that. So what then? You felt no hint that anyone was controlling Vicaire, and you know what that feels like thanks to Vriska and her fucking Dan Zester. Not that it could have been either of them, because God only knows how far away they are from you right now. You try not to think about that. Back to Vicaire. So, his spacesuit was checked recently. He had no enemies, and you didn't feel anyone making him take the helmet off. Dirk said that the helmets shouldn't even be removable outside of an airlock, and the specs you have here confirm that. So you've got two questions. Why did he take it off, and how? Very, very carefully you sneak into his medical files. This is far beyond misdemeanor now, and now well into actual crime, but you have to know. You're not medically inclined enough to understand all of the things that are noted down in his history, but his medical past seems perfectly normal. A few stomach bugs here and there, a fractured bone when he was a little kid, no allergies, and a clean psych history. Nothing at all to indicate why he'd do what he did. Vicaire's status changes abruptly from alive to deceased on your screen, and after a shocked second or two, you swallow your shame and open up his autopsy report. You don't open the attached photos, but as you read through the report, it's all normal. No alcohol or drugs in his blood, no head injuries, nothing amiss aside from everything you expect for a guy who just took his helmet off outside of the ship. It looks like he broke a lot of bones just before he died, but the report lists those injuries as a stain from impact with the ship post-depressurization. It takes a moment of thinking to work out what that means. The thing that answers it for you is remembering what happens when you inflate a balloon and let it go. Except instead of a balloon, it's a troll in a pressurized suit. You wince and feel glad that although you heard Vicaire's last moments, you didn't have to see them. The autopsy report lists Vicaire's death as exposure to the vacuum of space. His injuries were incidental. Beyond that, the medical examiner is saying that they have no reason to believe this was self-inflicted and advises that this is an accidental death. That's not true. You heard and felt Vicaire take his helmet off. You heard how he wanted to. He was aware of Dave calling to him, but he was paying so little attention to him that you didn't hear anything Dave might have said. The point is he willingly took his helmet off. His thoughts felt screwed up, but it was still deliberate. There's nothing here that would indicate that he'd do that. He wanted something. He thought he was getting to it, but you don't understand it. There's nothing in his blood that was picked up on like carbon monoxide poisoning or any hallucinogenic. His psych profile was disgustingly clean, and at any rate, it didn't feel like he was trying to die. But he's still dead. He's still dead, and you heard it. Dave was there, and you need to know what happened. You slink back out of Vicaire's records as quietly as you can can and do your best to erase every trace of it that you can, or at least scatter the trail across the ship so it'll be harder for anyone to pin it on you. Sleep isn't going to happen for you. You can feel that much. So you go out into the main room. Your next move is unclear right now. You could try asking Dave when he gets back home, but he might just lie to your face. Then again, if he did, you could work out more of the truth from whatever he decides is worth hiding. A few hours of mindless cartoons and vague contemplation leave you in the perfect place to spot Dave from the doorway. When the door opens, you're looking right at it, able to see Dave as he walks through. Dave! You blurt out and scramble to your feet. He seems genuinely surprised to see you there, but you don't blame him on that. Like, what are you going to do? Sinisterly turn a light on and ask him what time he calls this, like you're a dad from some old human TV show? You don't even know if that was a thing with humans or if it's just some odd joke with their species. Mentally, you make a note to ask Hal later. Why were you just... He starts to ask. Couldn't sleep, heard a guy die. So, what about you? You ask, and Dave grimaces. Sorry you had to hear that. I slept some, I guess. I was at Jade's, so... Dave shrugs a little. Okay. Try being straightforward first. Look, I have to know what happened out there, you ask. I don't know if I should say. There's probably some investigation going, but... Well, you were there. I got the call, I went to go check on him, and no more helmet. No more Vicaire, Dave says. You watch him carefully for a moment. He told you a true thing, making sure that you know he's doing you a favor by telling you, and then he obfuscates. Dave is an excellent liar. You're actually kind of impressed. Right. I get that whatever investigation they do is going to be top secret, and whatever... But I heard him take his helmet off. I heard him thinking that he wanted to fly into the stars or something. I heard him think about how he'd taken it off, and then something about how bright it was, and then he died. That wasn't an accident, you say. Man, I'm pretty sure you already know this, but if your psionics can do that, you shouldn't go around telling people that shit. But I don't know what you want me to tell you here. I assume people think weird shit when they're about to die, Dave says, all technically true. I want you to tell me why you're saying this is an accident when it wasn't, you say bluntly. Dave stares at you in the dim light of the room. The cartoons you are watching are muted, but the light from the TV still plays on the walls around you. The moment hangs for far longer than is comfortable. There'll be an investigation about it. It'll probably be public when it's done. I get that hearing that is messed up. As the guy who saw it, I understand that, but there is no answer here that you're going to find that makes this whole thing better. Honest to God. The best thing you can do is just forget it, Dave advises quietly. You're pretty sure he's being honest here, partly because he's not telling you anything especially useful. Like, he seems sincere and all, but that's not what you want. That's not an answer, you point out. Dave's expression locks down. It's not his poker face, but it's an actual absence of any readable expression. I have a funeral to get ready for, he says and walks off to his block, the door shutting before you can get in after him. That shady bastard, you're not letting this go. You don't care what he says. KK, I need your help. What's wrong? I've been awake all of 10 minutes because Gamzee nearly dragged me out of bed in a Gordian knot of bedsheets that had somehow tied us together overnight. I've no idea what you're doing up at this hour, since that didn't happen to you, and nothing good comes from you being awake at this hour. Look, I need you to meet me somewhere so we can talk. Can't tell anyone. Shit, this is really bad, isn't it? Fuck, okay, I'm up. Just tell me where and when. You look up Vicaire's funeral, which is open to the public. It's held in one of the squares near the edge of the ship. Most funerals are held there, so people can attend, and then the ashes of whoever it is can be just jettisoned from the ship. It's not actually that far from where you used to live, so you know that you can meet Karkat in a suit shop nearby and look down at the services from one of the walkways that cross nearby on a higher level. You stick your head out of the door when you hear Dave's open. He's dressed in his formal uniform, and you open your mouth to ask him for an actual answer, but he just says no without looking at you and walks off out of your hive. It doesn't take you a lot to get where you need to go, but you try your best not to actively tail Dave on the way there. You're not stupid enough to think someone with as much survival training as he has won't notice you very conspicuously following him from your shared hive. Karkat is pacing outside the suit shop when you arrive there. His hair is a mess and a smear of dried toothpaste is at the edge of his mouth. He jumps when he sees you approach and hurries over. Okay, how bad is this? Karkat asks worriedly, his eyes running you over with clear concern. I'm fine, I'm not losing my mind, this isn't that kind of emergency. You hiss and beckon him to the edge of the walkway. People are gathering for the funeral below you. Mind telling me what this is since you're so very sane? Karkat asks dubiously. No, Vicaire? You ask in a hushed whisper. Karkat's eyes flicker to the gathered funeral below. I know of him, yeah. Gamzee mentioned that he died, but I don't know anything else. Please tell me you're not trying to gate crash someone's funeral. Please tell me that that's not what's happening here. Karkat groans. What? No, what do you take me for? You say in offense as people start reading out about who Vicaire was and his life, tragic loss, etc. Okay, that's good. So, why are we here? Karkat asks with a sigh of relief. We're stalking Dave, you tell him, picking out Dave from the crowd below. He's right at the front, which is weird, but he's not alone. Or what? That's somehow worse. Why are... Karkat's voice is muffled as you shove your hand over his face. Dave's up there in the front with Gamzee, Aradia, and Father, you say slowly. They work together, fuckface. Vicaire was meant to be going on a mission with them, so why wouldn't they be there? Karkat argues, slapping your hand away by the wrist so he can talk. Okay, but those four were at the arcade before together as a group. Like, yeah, they work together, but Dave doesn't exactly hang out with Gamzee socially. Neither does Aradia. I've not seen any of them invite Father around to friend things. I only know who he is because I've picked Aradia up from work. Find if they're all here because he was going to sail with them, and it's a work obligation thing. But why are they together again? You ask. Karkat frowns, opens his mouth, and then says nothing for a moment. I don't know. Why does it matter? Why are you stalking Dave? Karkat asks. Dave got called out for Vicaire. We were together when that happened. He went out there and Vicaire died. It was close enough that I heard it. Only people are acting like it was an accident, but I heard him deliberately take his helmet off, and Dave was lying his ass off about all of it. I need to know why. You explain. It's the pitying little chirp from Karkat that makes you look back around at him. He's looking at you like some fragile little flap beast that's flown into a window is now terribly injured. I don't support stalking Dave as an outlet for your feelings, but if being here will help you lay some of your emotions to rest about what you heard, then it seems relatively harmless as far as things go. I'm really sorry to hear what... Sorry you had to hear what you did. It'll be okay. Karkat assures you gently. You want to tell him that you're not redirecting trauma into an obsession about Dave's lives and his present whereabouts or the company he keeps, but you know full well that denial will only confirm Karkat's thoughts. Whatever. If he's not going to kick up a stink about this, then all the better for you. The captain's here too? Why is she here? You ask in a whisper as you crouch down. The mesh that lines the walkways might hide you a little, and you can still peek over the top. Because Vicaire died in service? Something not applicable to you since your only chance of dying in service is someone beating you to death with a keyboard for being unhelpful. Karkat hisses, but nonetheless crouches down with you. All right, you'll excuse the sudden appearance of the captain, but that does nothing to exclaim Dave's weird little foursome reoccurring. The other meaning of that phrase hits your mind and you grimace at that mental image that you certainly didn't need. Look, I know you've been going through a lot with Aradia and now this, but we can really just go somewhere and talk. And maybe you should consider seeing a therapist, even if it's just temporary. There's no shame in that, Parquet assures you. Shh, I'm trying to listen, you hiss at him. Whoever was leading the funeral seems to have stepped down, and you jolt to see Dave, Gamzee, Aradia, and Fawzer all stand up together. You slap Karkat's arm repeatedly so that you know he's seeing this too. The four of them get up on a small raised platform and face the gathering crowd. They're all standing at a formal kind of rest, their hands held behind their backs, their shoulders square, and their gaze straight ahead. Dave steps slightly ahead of the other three and opens his mouth. You thought to say something, but you're startled to hear him begin to sing. I'm actually going to pause for a second and take some water before I do some singing. I luckily already know this one. Oh, I bid farewell to the port and the land, and I paddle away from brave England's white sands to search for my long ago forgotten friends, to search for the place I hear all sailors end. Then without warning, the other three join in as well. They sing the same words in perfect sync and entirely in tune with each other, like they've done so 100,000 times before. As the souls of the dead fill the space of my mind, I'll search without sleeping till peace I can find. I fear not the weather, I fear not the sea. I remember the fallen, do they think of me? When their bones in the ocean forever will be. Something about the way their four voices bounce around the space makes your skin shiver in a way that doesn't abate when it's back just to Dave singing alone. Pluck course through the night to a place I once knew, to a place where my hope died along with my crew. So I swallow my grief and face life's final test, to find promise of peace and the solace of rest. This time when the others join in, it's not just them. There are plenty of sailors gathered below you, but it seems that the others were around lining the balconies and walkways above the funeral, just as you and Karkat are. The souls of the dead fill the space of my ears, their laughter like children, their beckoning cheers. My heart longs to join them, sing songs of the sea. I remember the fallen, do they think of me? When their bones in the ocean forever will be. There's something about it. The wall of sound, maybe. Everyone singing the same thing. Something. The hairs on the back of your neck are standing up and your eyes start to prickle. You stare down at the four on the stage and see that aside from Dave, their eyes are all shut, almost like they're sleepwalking. Sleep singing? Dave continues alone, his dark eyes staring distantly into the crowd before him as he does. When at last before my ghostly ship. No, I'm doing that one. When at last before my ghostly shipmates I stand, I shed a small tear for my home upon land. Though their eyes speak of depths filled with struggle and strife, their smiles below say I don't owe them my life. Your vision flickers for a second, and then there's someone on the stage that wasn't before. A troll whose face you know from hours scouring his HR profile and autopsy. Vicare's translucent hands touch his neck, and then, looking lost, his gaze goes to the people around him who are still singing. You expect the jump in volume from the chorus, but now somehow it's louder, and you look and there's suddenly more people than before. Sailors you don't recognize, standing to attention at the edge of the balconies and walkways, with bodies semi-translucent and words sung in harmony with the living around them. As the souls of the dead fill the space of my eyes, as my boat listed over and tried to capsize, I'm this far from drowning, this far from the sea. I remember the living, do they think of me? When my bones in the ocean forever will be. The ghostly sailors seem to sing on Dave's words as he sings what feels like the end of the song, or near to it at least. Now that I'm staring down at the darkest abyss, I'm not sure what I want, but I don't think it's this. As my comrades call to stand fast and forge on, I make sail for the dawn until the darkness has gone. A few of the ghostly sailors reach out for Vicare and take his hands and pull him to them, one by one getting fainter and fainter as the last chorus fades. The souls of the dead live forever in my mind, as I live all the years that they left me behind. I'll stay on the shore, but still gaze at the sea. I remember the fallen, and they think of me. For our souls in the ocean together will be. Dave stares out at the crowd, and you don't know if he can see like you can. Surely not, but it almost looks like he watches Vicare fade with the others as his last words seem to hang in the air. I remember the fallen, and they think of me. For our souls in the ocean together will be. Something passes. A collective breath, maybe. But whatever that was, it was every bit as supernatural as you hearing Vicar die in the first place. I didn't know Dave could sing like that. That was beautiful, Harkat says, his voice soft and quiet. Yeah, it was moving all right, but it was also haunted as shit, and that's haunted, not haunting. Below you and around you, the living sailors all disperse without a word, and you realize that the rest of the funeral appears to be breaking up too. The captain already gone. Harkat, did you not see that? There were ghosts! You hiss, trying to keep your voice down because you've got enough self-awareness to realize that yelling right by a funeral is a bad look. What? Harkat asked, clearly lost. There were... like, a radia can bring ghosts out, but they were all sailors, and look, I know you're not as... You falter. That I have the spooky fuckery psionics of a dish sponge? Yeah, I prefer it that way. No, I didn't see anything. Look, you're not really convincing me that you don't need to see a therapist here, Karkat points out. You try to think of any way to convince Karkat of what you just saw and how you're sure that it was the song that did it. But even you can hear that, how crazy that sounds. You hear people die, but you don't really get haunted like Aradia used to. Sometimes if you were together, you'd see things because your psionics would sort of mingle like that. This isn't your first undead rodeo here, but you've never seen that before. There's no way Karkat would get it, and it's not like you can talk to Aradia about this. She's normally who you go to about something like this. Forget it. You mumble and look down at the funeral below. A few people gather up folding chairs. Hey! You hear Arquette say, and then jump when a firm hand clasps you on the shoulder. You nearly jump out of your skin as you're spun around to come face to face with the cane-wielding arm of the law. Solux, Trezzy says. You nearly scared the life out of me, you hiss at her. Well, then you'll love this. I need you to come with me, she says. Wait, sorry, are you arresting him, Terezi? Arquette's jaw is all but hanging open in shock as he looks at her. I've been told that whether he's arrested or not is entirely up to him, or me. The captain wants to see you, and I've been told that you can either come all nice and pleasantly, or a file I have in my possession about certain cyber crimes you may or may not have committed recently can come into play, in which case you can get arrested and dragged there, Terezi says with a smile on her face. You stay frozen for a moment, staring down at Terezi's predatory expression and blank red eyes. I'll go with you calmly, but only on the understanding that I'm doing it because it sounds better, not because I'm admitting that I did anything. You say carefully, Smart boy, Terezi grins, showing off very many sharp teeth. What did you do? Arquette hisses you as Terezi leads you away. For your own legal well-being, you're not answering that. The ship has trains that run through it. Public transport is pretty key, but there is private transport. Not like fancy individual cars like old movies show you. It's more the emergency services. If someone's having a heart attack or choking to death, you want them on an express trip to the hospital, not riding the train with everybody else. The emergency line runs below, but essentially on the same tracks as the regular transport lines, except they go everywhere and as fast as possible. Not fast enough in your opinion. Not when Terezi is staring blindly at you with that predatory smile. You're friends. Actually friends, not friends like you are with Dave. You don't think she'd be delighted at convicting you of crimes that you know that you've done lately, but she seems pretty pleased nonetheless. Does that mean you're not really in danger? Or she knows she doesn't have anything on you? Now, if you want to talk about someone with a good poker face, Terezi is the best. You have no idea what's happening and you are pretty freaked out by it. When you arrive at the stop for the bridge, she hauls you out and marches you to the captain's office. Captain Jade is a pretty intimidating lady at times. She's your captain. She's pretty important, even if she's with the disciple. You don't really feel like you have a lot of leeway with her as Terezi shoves you in the room, salutes, and then leaves again. Solux, sit down. The captain smiles you, polite and formal. You sit down on the chair in front of her desk. I am aware of you digging into Vicair's records, committing several felonies on the way. I'm aware that you were curious enough about him dying, something which I'm told you psychically heard, to show up at his funeral, the captain says simply. You think of anything you can say here that's not incriminating, find nothing, and shut up instead. What did you hear? She asks. When Vicair died? You ask. The captain nods. He wanted to take his helmet off. His thoughts felt weird, but still sane. I don't think he was trying to kill himself. He just wanted to take his helmet off and be in the stars. Then he died. Then he did, and he died, you say. And you went looking into that, she says, not asking. I didn't understand why you... Look, I know what people sound like when they die, but I've not heard anything like that before. When it's an accident, it's panic and disbelief at how whatever happened suddenly happened, or blame or pain. This wasn't that, you insist. The captain leans back in her chair and looks at you for a moment. I'm going to give you a chance here. Don't answer right away because I need to tell you some relevant information first. Just 1 second. The captain leans over and presses a button on her desk and speaks into the intercom. Tagora, dear, can you bring those NDA papers in, please? Non-disclosure agreement? You ask warily. The door behind you opens and a teal man walks into the room in an expensive suit with printed out papers, something you've not really seen all that often. Now, for me to give you the full story here, to make your choice as informed as you can, you need to sign these. You can refuse if you like, and because of your understandable curiosity, I will look the other way this time. But we will be keeping an eye on you, and I would expect you to say no more on the matter of Vicare's death. She explains with a gesture to the papers that Gora sets neatly on the desk. But if I sign this agreeing not to tell anyone, you'll tell me, then you'll get... Not to tell anyone what you tell me, then you'll give me answers? You ask? I promise you some answers. I promise you context. Whether you learn everything you want is something out of my hands, she says. You stare at her and the waiting Tagora. You could get up and walk out of here without any penalty, consider this a lesson learned, and leave well enough alone. Yeah, no. You pull the papers close to you and read. It's standard NDA stuff. A variation on what you have to sign for work. Your work has you to an agreement that you can't go blabbing any private information that you come across to anyone you like. This conversation you're about to have is also privileged information, and then it lists out the people you're allowed to discuss it with. Dave's name is on the list. No surprises there. Aradia too, Gamzee, and okay, yeah, this is all 4 of them, but also all the other sailors too. Extra people beyond that as well, but not enough that you know by name to work out which spheres of people are included. Huh, Roxy is on there. Weird. If you sign this, it basically means that you don't tell anyone in this context that you're getting to read on. You've not agreed to do anything more than that yet. You signed and date it in the appropriate places, and Tagora whisks the paper away before you can do anything more. The upcoming mission to Somnos is important. Do you know why? She asks. Resources, you say with a shrug. It's always resources. Yes, that's the purpose behind pretty much all of our missions, even when there's greater scientific purpose at work. Right now, the resources are more mission critical than ever, she explains. She stares at you and you at her. You need resources more than ever? Why? Why is there suddenly a bigger demand to make it more than usual? Making more ships is standard, so if species survive, some of us get taken out. What's changed? You ask. Smart question. We've been making ships as normal to provide for both species. Things have changed. The ships at the front of the wave have found a new planet. An inhabited planet. The captain says slowly and seriously. Inhabited? Wait, like, with people? You gasp, this is huge! Yes, they're not trolls or humans. They're called Carapacians. Their planet is Skya. The ships at the head of the wave held back to make contact and work on bridging the language barrier. Thankfully, it seems they've cracked that quickly, and we've been explaining the situation to them. They're not spacefaring yet, not even close. Ships have been diverting to pick up as many Carapacians as possible, but ships rarely have a lot of extra space. She explains gravely. And if we don't get the material for ships from this planet, then we won't be able to make ships for them. They won't all make it, you say in horror. Exactly. Ships ahead of us are willing to take over capacity if we assure them that we will have empty ships waiting for them afterwards, but they won't pick up any more than their usual amount if we can't make that promise. Billions of lives hang in the balance here. Even though we're working on using their own resources to do what we can, it's tough, she says. The gravity of what you're hearing sinks in, and your eyes shift to Tagora, the NDA. Wait, is this secret because if you don't make it, then we won't tell people they existed? Is this a potential cover-up? You demand? It does seem that way, doesn't it? That is certainly not my intent, but a lot of the Alternian fleet wants to maintain what do they call it? A narrative. Humans are no better. I know we make it seem like everyone got off Earth. I know that's what we teach, but I was there and we didn't all make it. I refuse to let that happen again in my lifetime. The captain hisses. Holy shit. So what does this have to do with me? You ask squarely. Somnos is a less than ideal planet, filled with resources that can save lives. Yes, but its atmosphere is a real pain in the ass. It keeps breaking our tech, and we can't fix it, or can't fix it fast enough. Then she trails off. Then billions of people die, and the care was your tech guy. You include. Exactly. He was qualified and more than eager. Certainly eager, but you're a psionic. You're intelligent. You're already working in repairing software and hardware. You have experience for school and engineering. She starts. I was 15. I'm not an engineer, you insist. But you can learn that, and you already do half of the job anyway. I've also been told that you have a suitable temperament for some of the work. I've looked into my other options, and thus far, you are my best. As long as you can pass the physical, I think you can do the job. I certainly hope you can, the captain says. You think your jaw is hanging open. How many people does the ship have, and somehow you're her best shot? You want to argue, but she's not stupid. If she's saying that you meet her specifications best, then she'd know. But then again, you certainly can't turn her down, not when so many people are depending on you. Holy fuck, that's a lot of pressure. I don't really have a choice, you say dazedly. It's that kind of situation, I'm afraid. Tagora, could you go see if the others are here? The captain asks sweetly. Tagora nods and leaves the room. So to be clear, you agree to take the job? She checks. Yes, I guess. That still doesn't answer my question about how Vicaire died, though. What's the answer to that? You ask. Oh, well, I'm not really at liberty to tell you. If you're able to learn that or not is out of my hands, but it wasn't strictly an accident. This, of course, is confidential, she says. You're about to protest when the door behind you opens. Turning around, you see Nepeta at the front, followed by Dave, Aradia, Fozer, and Gamzee. Again, those four? You wanted to see us, Captain? Nepeta asks, standing to attention. Yes. Solix here has been read into the situation with Skaya and has agreed to fill in for Vicaire, she explains casually. But, oh, Captain, you can't! Aradia gasps in horror. I can, Captain says politely, although her posture suggests that Aradia not push that. He's bipolar. Surely he wouldn't be suited for it. Aradia tries again, and you flinch at her words. Seriously, what did you do to deserve her throwing that in your face? And has been stable for some time. Obviously, before being allowed on board, he would have an evaluation, but I don't think that should stop him, the captain says politely. Permission to speak? Dave asks hesitantly, and you look around to see what he is going to say about you. Granted, Captain nods. I know he's IT and smart and a techie. That's great. And as far as I know, he's fine, like, upstairs. No, but I'm just wondering if he's our only plan, because getting anyone to pass the physical between now and the mission is rough. But if we don't have him, then what's our plan be? Like, Rox is doing more remote droids and everything to try and help, but Dave trails off. You're right that it's certainly difficult, but I believe that in these extraordinary circumstances, we can do extraordinary things. Besides, he will have a dedicated trainer who will be guiding him through their process, so he is sure to pass. The captain smiles brightly. Dave's face shifts through alarm to exasperation. Did I just sign up for that? Dave asks wearily. Well, Aradi and he have history. That won't work well. And if I leave him to be trained by Gamzee, then I'm pretty sure someone will wind up in the hospital. And I'm of the understanding that he and Fozer don't know each other all that well, while you currently live with him. I have every faith in you, she smiles. Dave closes his eyes for a second, takes a deep breath, and nods. Yes, sir, he says finally. Well then, I'm sure you're all very busy. Dismissed. Oh, and Solux, I'll be clearing your schedule at Mr. Strider's convenience. You'll also be getting tutoring from Miss Strider as well. I'm sure it'll be great, she says. The simple act of being dismissed has you all shuffling out of the room, and at least in your case, standing awkwardly in the office outside of the captain's. You figure that it's Tagara's office as he's sat there watching you all with amusement. Dave, just send me anything you need for this, and I'll get it approved, all right? Nippet asks, and Dave nods. I can't believe this is happening. Arati whispers, her hand halfway over her mouth and an expression of horror on her face. What did you think was gonna happen with Big Hair gone? There's only so many people she can pull on, and he ain't yours to hold back anymore. So, Gamzee shrugs. Gamzee, that's not helpful, Geppetto warns him sharply. Yeah, speaking of helpful, I have about 1,000,000 questions. You interrupt, and Aradia looks away from you. It's hard to act like that doesn't hurt. Yeah, and you'll be getting no goddamn answers, most likely. From what I heard, you only got your foolish ass into this by sticking your sniff node where it wasn't wanted, like usual, Gamzee says in a threatening rumble. There needs to be some kind of backup plan if this doesn't work. The lives of so many are counting on us. Father sighs. That kid shouldn't have been plan A. We said as much, and now Solux is plan B. And you're already off onto C? How many letters do we need for spelling bad idea? Gamzee demands. What's done is done. If we can't bring Vicaire back. But this can't be our plan going forward. You'll know what'll happen with Solux if... Aradia starts to argue. What's done is done. Are you shitting me? Dave asks sharply. Enough! Nepeta shouts and silence falls among the group. Tagora looks wildly entertained. Nepeta looks around each of you with her gaze. Her green eyes pin you in place, and you'd never have thought the sweet cat girl from your childhood could command such sway. Telling Equius what to do over the years must have given her more experience than you thought, even before she got the job she is now. We've been given our orders, and we have to make this work. Gamzee, Aradia, and Fawzer. You can all keep your objections to yourself or air them to me privately, but that won't change what we've been ordered to do. Dave, are you going to follow your orders? Nepeta asks. It's our best shot, and right now, all this arguing is just wasting time and making it less likely that it'll pass. Bitching, moaning, and pointing fingers, even if some people will need to do their own shit more, won't get us anywhere, Dave says with a pointed look at Aradia. Then take Solux and get out of here, Nepeta tells him. Sir, yes, sir, Dave says and snaps a lazy salute that you think is only partially sarcastic. But you try to protest, but Dave grabs you by the front of your shirt and pulls you away. As soon as we get out of here, you'd better not talk about anything confidential, okay? Either wait until we're in private or troll me about it. Don't talk out loud. Don't talk out loud, Dave says as quietly and pulls you through the door. I have so many questions that she didn't answer, and I want answers, you insist. I'll do my best. We're taking the train. Give me a moment to hit up my sister for a favor and then troll me, Dave says. Which one? You ask with a frown. He has 4. Oh, right, Jane. Still gonna need Rose and Roxy later, probably. Not sure how June could help anyone here, but who knows? Dave frowns. June's brand of help would be pranks or movie knowledge. Neither of which you see as being helpful, although, given the little that you know about your current situation, who knows? Okay, help secured. We're going to the cavern so I can get you a checkup ASAP so I know what I'm working with and I can see how you're improving, because otherwise I'm just fucking about in the dark here, Dave says as he leads you to the train line. So, can I ask my questions now? You ask him petulantly. Dave just holds his palm husk and waves at you like, duh, he's waiting. You resist the urge to kick him in the shins and take your palm husk out. A panicked message from Karkat. You'll get to that later. For now, Dave. You hesitate at first, almost not knowing where to start, but somewhere is better than nowhere. so you go with the first thing on your mind. I won't answer, though I'm just starting anywhere. Makes sense. First of all, you're a fucking liar, and you let everyone think you're a bad liar. What the fuck, man? That's an entirely unwarranted personal attack. When have I lied to you? Let everyone think that what happened with Vicaire was an accident. 1, that's not lying. 2, it was under investigation. What do you want me to do? And 3, I'm not going to blab horrifying details about a guy's death to my family. Like, what the hell? Okay, but I already heard him take his helmet off. I told you that. You weren't telling me anything new and you refused. No, I told you should drop it for your own good. And here we are. I warned you, bro. Oh, fuck off. You look at Dave and his smug little grin and kick him in the ankle for good measure. Hey, ow, what the fuck? Right on the bone, man. Why'd you have to be like that? Dave yelps, hopping so he can hold his hopefully bruised ankle with one hand. You deserve that, you remind him as the train pulls up. I did not. Come on. Dave husks and leads the way onto the train. You sit next to him and start typing instead. Okay, tell me what happened. Fine. Vicaire was out there to repair an array. Something you do not have the clearance to know about happened to him. He was able to take off his helmet and did. Then he died, and I'd rather not go over that part, thanks. I know my job means I see people injured and in danger a lot, and sometimes see people die, but it's never fun. Can we just skip that part, please? Okay. I'm not trying to be an asshole because it sucks to hear too. Yeah, I bet. I can't help but notice that classified part, though. Yeah. Look, consider this a warning from future you who's like, gee, if I could go back in time and unknow this thing, I definitely would. Here's me doing future you a solid by saying that you're better off not knowing, and even if I didn't agree with future you about you being better off with knowing, I legally can't tell you. So a thing happened to him out there that allowed him to override an unoverridable safety feature and made him want to do it too. Do it too. Legally not allowed to tell you. Okay, slight curve on that question is whatever is that something that happens a lot? Can you be more specific? Are people in this just randomly compelled to do things by whatever happened to Vicaire? Because I've not heard anything like that before. No, it's not. Just Dave hesitates, and you watch him bite his lip for a moment as he thinks. It seems forever until he starts typing again. You're not in danger just walking around the ship going about your day. This was a specific and bad situation, and I feel really shitty that it happened to Vicaire. Guy just loved space. He didn't deserve that. So it's specific to him, then. The autopsy report didn't show that he had think sponge worms or anything. I'm not sure I want to ask how you know that. Apparently by agreeing to this, my crimes are forgiven. Not that I know how she knew in the first place. I never get caught. Not that you'd ever do anything to get caught, I'm sure. See, you get it. I don't know, man. If you want to know how the captain does shit, you can ask her if you think it's worth it. I might. Okay, next question, since you won't tell me what happened out there in detail. I followed you to the funeral and heard you sing. Not a question, but you were up to stalking now. Oh, cool. No, shut up. I need to know what you were up to. Oh, I was right, and you were up to shady search. Not what I'd call it, but whatever. I can't say that I wouldn't have done the same if the tables was returned. You lower your Paul Muskin a little and look at him. I'm only saying this, you say quietly, because I know text can be hard to do with tone, and I'm an asshole sometimes. But I heard you sing. The look Dave gives you is uncertain and uneasy, and you get the feeling that if you were to hurt him with this, it would be genuinely hurtful, and you don't want that. I have questions and all, but I didn't know you could sing like that. It was good, seems kind of weak, but it was. I felt it. Your explanation is clunky, and it feels weird being said so quietly, so close to him. Dave's expression shifts to instant surprise and then to something almost flustered. He clearly hadn't expected praise, and it's caught him off guard, and gone right to the feelings he pretends he's too cool for. You're ignoring that and going back to Trollian. Also, you know your thinking was haunted as shit, right? As in there were ghosts everywhere. Oh, shit. You can see ghosts, what the hell? Radia can, but she never said you could. I can't usually, just with her. Normally I just hear people right before they die, so either I was just tuned into her when you sung, or it was the song itself that did it. Well, that's not great, but I guess I needed to know that. So you see the two then? How come? Humans can't do that, right? Some can, and it's not so much as a seeing thing for me, or not as in seeing with my eyeballs kind of way, even if I feel there's a visual effect. It's more of a blind sense thing, which we don't talk about because humans don't get it, and I don't need a psych eval, thanks. Other Thailers know, though? Yeah, it's a no thing, but not outside. Alright, fine, I won't tell people. Thanks. Why is AA so against me being involved in this? Cop-out answer is you'd have to ask her, but I have an actual answer. The job's pretty dangerous, and you'd have been better off not involved in this much, and definitely not in the stuff I'm not allowed to tell you. And I guess she knows you well enough to know that apparently you don't listen to people being like, hey man, maybe don't keep digging. Fair. On the topic of AA, why are you, her, Gamthea, and father all together on this? Reasons. You can't just... You begin to protest, but Dave pulls you to your feet and you realize that you're at the stop of the caverns. The caverns is something of a misnomer because they're nothing like what they were supposedly were like on Alternia. Still, the name sticks. It's really more like a hospital or a lab and not something you have any clearance to get into. Why would you? There is work in there that is important to keeping the population of your ship going, and you've no business near that. It looks like you don't have to worry about getting in, though, because Jane has stood outside waiting. What is going on, Dave? Jane asks as you both approach. Yeah, Dave, tell her. You pipe up and grin gleefully at the irritated look he gives you. Nepetta's orders. I need to get Solix tested to see how close he is to flight ready, and like doing that ASAP. We're kind of trying to keep this on the down low here, so I was really hoping you could work your magic for me. Dave asks hopefully. Jade looks at you dubiously and then back to Dave. He's replacing Vicaire then? Roxy said he was their fix-it guy, her words. They said you were out there with him when he died. Is that true? Jane asks. She's watching Dave with clear concern, and you're pretty sure the way Dave cringes under her attention is genuine. Yeah. There was nothing I could do. That's what everyone's telling me. We just had his funeral, that's why I'm dressed like this and everything. But it's really important that we check him out, and I'm responsible for getting him ready since Vicaire died, and please? Dave asks. Wait, you mean to tell me that they're punishing you for his death by making you train? Jane is clearly building up a wall of rage, and Dave has to wave his hands in panic to cut her off. No, it's not like that. It's just that Nepeta trusts me, we live together, and it just worked out that way. It's not a punishment, I swear. Dave assures her quickly. Well, okay then. Jade nods. She looks you over with a justifiably skeptical expression. You're not exactly a fit and buff guy. No one's going to mistake you for Jake in a dark hallway, that's for sure. You're well aware of the kind of fitness and strength required for being a sailor and working on a planet. You've felt Aradia's muscles more than enough times, which is good because you're not going to anymore. Shit, now you're sad. Come on, I'll see what I can do, Jane says quietly and beckons you in. You and Dave follow after as she leads you through the caverns. Carefully, you bump against Dave's side and lean closer to whisper to him. Hey, I didn't catch Jane's name on the agreement thing. Is she? You ask as quietly as you can. Dave shakes his head minutely and gives you a significant look. Right, keeping your mouth shut it is. I would say the best thing to do is a full body scan, blood pressure, ECG, blood panel, and depending on those results, we can investigate further. If you're wanting to check his athletic abilities, I could fit you in a monitor for that. Jane suggests as she lets you into a private room. That would be great, actually. Dave nods. Looking around the room, you can see what looks like a huge tube with tinted glass around it, as well as an examination table to the side. Jane turns around to face you in the middle of the room with her hands set on her round lips and round hips, and a very businesslike expression on her face. First of all, you're my patient here, Solux. Do you consent to have these tests done? Because regardless of what anyone orders, if you don't want me to do anything, then I won't. And second of all, well, do you consent that you are right with Dave having the results and are okay with Dave being here? Jane asks. Hey, what? Why am I the bad guy here? Dave asks. If you don't get these tests and eventually pass, then billions of people might die. Kind of hard to say no to that. I'm not taking my clothes off in front of him, not unless he's going to buy me dinner first. You say flatly. Technically, I bought you dinner the other night as well as Hal, but I'm not here for weird medical kink nudity, dude. Don't worry, I'm happy to sit here and wait. God knows I've got other people to beg for favors with. Dave retorts. Well, okay then. I'll pull up a screen for anything like that. It might be an idea to start with the body scan in here, which when you step inside, it tints completely in the middle, but you'll need to take your clothes off for that, and I'll put a screen up in the meantime. Jane assures you. Right, oh, hey, here's an idea. Just a second, you say, and pull your palm husk out again. Solux, what happened? Terezi won't tell me anything! I can't see you anywhere. I can't see anywhere that you've been arrested, so please tell me what's going on here. Hal says you're not at home, so look, seriously, call me back. I'm really worried. Okay, what the shit? Gansy just told me that you got dragged up to see the captain for hacking into Vicara's records. So look, that's serious. Tell me he's joking. Please tell me anything, fuckface. Please. Hey, I'm not in trouble now. I'm in Dave's custody. You should ask him about it. You grin and drop your palm husk on a nearby chair and pull your shirt off. You're just unlacing your shoes so you can undress the rest of the way when you hear Dave's palm husk ping repeatedly on the other side of the screen that Jane just set up. Solix, the fuck did you do? Why, Jesus, you won't stop freaking out on me. Thanks a lot. Dave grumbles from the other side. You dump the last of your clothes on the chair, throwing them onto the pile from inside the tinted tube. Jane doesn't seem to be paying attention to you getting ready, but the moment you're done, she looks around with a friendly smile. It's one that sets you genuinely at ease, unlike the curious and cunning smiles you got from her at the wedding. Jane has you stand in this way and that, and honestly, the scan takes no time at all. Honestly, getting your clothes off and on again, aside from your shirt, which Jane has you leave off, takes longer than the scan itself. She smiles at you all pleasantly and sticks little pads to your skin as you sit on her bench. That test, too, takes longer to set up than actually run. Your blood pressure takes no real time, and having your blood taken for testing is pretty routine for you as well. The last thing is the monitor that I was talking to Dave about. It'll essentially track your blood oxygen saturation and your pulse. So it'll tell us how you're doing under stress and how physically fit you are in an endurance sense. It's just a little monitor like this. Honestly, the display on the outside takes up more room than the rest of it. You can take it on and off like a watch, but I recommend keeping it on as much as you can so the data is more reliable. Jane explains as she shows you the inside where the little sensors read your blood through your skin and give all kinds of reports on it. Alright, I can do that. You nod, and Jane fits it carefully above your wrist, tightening it enough so you're constantly aware of it, but she makes sure that you can still move just fine and it's not cutting off circulation or anything. How's he looking, Jane? Dave calls from the other side of the screen. Jane stands up and pulls the screen back since you're all dressed now. His palm husk is back in his pocket again, so you can guess he got Karkat off his back somehow. Do you want the good news or the bad news? She asks. Good news? Dave asks squarely. Good news is that there's no physical problem that I can see right now that would exclude him from flight 8 across the board. There's plenty of space for his breath sacs, no bone abnormalities, no concerning growths or illnesses. I'd need to check his blood to completely sure of that, but that'll take about an hour. His blood pressure is fine and his pump biscuit has a perfectly normal rhythm, Jane says. Wait, what's the bad news then? You ask. There is no way you're physically fit enough for flight. You don't have the endurance, and I can tell that just by looking at you. You'd pass out in a second when you got to re-entry, and that's even with the fact that psionics capable of flight are often a bit tougher in that regard. Right now, you're just not athletic enough, Jane says bluntly. I'd like it to be surprised, but I'm not, you admit. That's good, though. I can't do shit about not being biologically capable of withstanding flight and getting in and out of atmosphere, but physical fitness is something I can do something about. I can make this work, Dave says slowly. Cool. Can we go home now, Dave? You ask, trying to convey with your tone that you need to talk to him. You need answers. You're done being played off. Yeah, I gotta change out of this formal stuff. Come on. Jane, if you could send us all the results and send them to Nepeta too, that'd be awesome, Dave says, and Jane looks at you for your permission. You're not about to deny her, so you nod. I'll do that as soon as his blood work comes back. And Dave, if you need to talk to anyone, even if it's not professionally, you know we're always here for you, Jane insists gently. Shit, you don't need to worry about me, really. Dave insists with the look of mild panic. Dave, we're family. I'm always going to worry about you, Jane insists. Dave makes some barely audible excuse and scuttles out of the room. Jane shakes her head and pats you on the arm. I'll let you know when I've got everything, but aside from you not being an athlete, there's nothing wrong with you at all. Don't worry about that, Jane tells you. Well, now I kind of want that in writing. Karkath's always insisted that there's something deeply wrong with me. It'd be good to have proof otherwise. You laugh. Well, you may need a different kind of doctor for that. Jane laughs. You give your goodbyes and catch up with Dave in the hallway. Thanks for sending Karkat on my ass, by the way. Really appreciate that. I told him you were fine and that the captain is ignoring your dumbassery in exchange for you agreeing to fill the care's spot. He still thinks you're having a mental breakdown. Nothing I can do about that. That's your problem to deal with, Dave says, and when you fall into step with him. Karkat routinely thinks that, you say with a shrug. The pair of you walk through the caverns in silence for a while. You're not sure if Dave is pissed or if he's just thinking intently. You try and feel him out with another question. You're not worried about what Karkat might think about all of this, that he might ask questions? He's not stupid. Not actually stupid, anyway, you point out. Well, that falls into my favorite box when it comes to categorizing problems I can see, Dave says as he opens the door back out of the caverns. Which is? You ask, going ahead of him. Gamzee's problem, Dave says, and lets the door swing shut behind him. I can't believe that you're in some kind of cahoots with him, you say, trying to convey as much as you can that the idea is fundamentally gross. What's worse now is, at least on this part of the secret, is you're also in cahoots with him. You feel gross already. Look, Me and Gamzee... Dave hesitates and comes to a stop on the nearby train platform. There's no one else here, but you get the feeling he's still being careful with his words. Dave turns to face you properly, his expression serious for once. I don't like the guy. On a personal level, the two of us just don't click. I don't like how he works much either. I don't especially rate him as a person. I'm with you in the Harket can do better club. Like, I'm no Gamzee stan. However, we work together. I have to rely on him to have my back and not get me and other people killed. And as far as it stands now, I trust him and work well enough with him for that. My line of work doesn't always attract the nicest people, but we're both in the same team, working on the same thing. And to his credit, he does his job as well as I do mine. I'm not going around his hive braiding his hair and trading stickers for our sparkly journals here. No one is delighted about this. Be grateful that you'll be my problem and not his, Dave tells you. I'm a little piffed that the captain knew about that. I don't know who blabbed to her, Thipel or Nepeta, you say with a grimace. It's not the world's most subtle beef, but if it helps, I find that the captain already knows shit even if I have no idea how. Just go into every conversation assuming she knows everything already. It's like dealing with my family, but worse. Dave snorts. Well, You hesitate as the train pulls up, and you decide not to say what you were going to. You what? Dave asks you suspiciously. Your family, I like, that's it, you mumble. You almost look way out of embarrassment at having to admit that, but you're glad you didn't, because you get to see genuine delight spread over Dave's face. Yeah, they're pretty great, Dave says with a smile, and gets on the train. You follow right after, of course. Even if you're lying to all of them all of the time and they don't notice. You add, and yep, that smile falls right off. Oh, great. There it is. Look, either hold on to the bitter call-out guy routine until we get home, or have the decency to just serve your burns over Trollian, Dave grumbles. Let's go home. Then you can lie to my face, you say with faux cheer. Dave mumbles a very enthusiastic yay and slides down his seat. The whole journey back to your hive is done in silence, which you regret at least partly by the time you're there. He was definitely lying about things, and you were right that he was up to something, but you're also getting the feeling that he's been put in this situation somewhat unwillingly, and you're being a great asshole about it. But as it is often the case, you've gone in hostile, and now you can't work out how to extricate yourself from that particular play without losing a lot of face. As you both walk in through the door, Dave holds up a finger like he wants you to be silent and quiet, and silently walks to Hal's block. He knocks on the door and opens it, and after that he pokes his head into the ablution block. I guess he's okay, we can talk if you want. I'm getting changed. Dave says and walks into his block. You follow out of habit since the door's open, hastily backpedal when you realize he's unbuttoning his shirt. You scramble back from the main area with your face hot. I didn't realize you meant this second, you yell without looking around the door. If this all goes well, you're going to be stuck in a very small spaceship with me. You get used to getting changed with people right there, Dave points out, and you hear fabric on the floor. Great, I take the job and maybe save billions of lives, but I might have to see your ass up close and personal, or worse, Gamzee? You say it, or an awful part of your mind reminds you, Aradia. Oh, hey, crushing despair about your failed relationship. Long time no see. You'd gotten so involved in this conspiracy that you hadn't had time to think about it. You will admit to no one, especially not Karkat, that you getting so sucked into this mystery is in any way you avoiding your feelings about ending things with Aradia. Looking down at the monitor on your arm, you can see your pulse, and you wonder if it's higher than it should be, given what you're thinking. As you stare at it, you're reminded of what the captain told you, about how many lives are riding on it, and what the people from your ship can get from that planet. You'll be fine either way. Either you make it and everyone gets the resources they need, and you don't, and you can wave at the doomed sky as you pass it by. Well, you can't really do that because there aren't windows on your ship, but still. It's really billions of people? You ask quietly. You hear Dave pause and then sigh softly. I try not to think about it. Focusing on all of the potential future stuff can just freak you out. It's easier to do what you can now and not let it hang over you like some sort of Damocles. He pronounces that word in English very carefully, and you don't tell him that the reference is lost in you, since he clearly went to some effort. Is there really no one better for this job than me? You ask worriedly. Dave appears in the doorway dressed in a t-shirt and sweatpants. In the corner of his t-shirt has his ID sewn into it, so it's clearly something he never intends to wear his ID lanyard with. I'm going to level you with you. I don't know the exact specs this job has. My knowledge of Somnos is that the atmosphere fucks with the machinery and that their software, and that's the problem for us. I don't know exactly how, because I'm basically going to be trained by engineers and people on the ground when we get there and work on the problem. I can follow instructions, but I don't know the details, and fixing stuff is kind of your thing, Dave admits. But it's a big ship, you point out. Right. Some people aren't eligible because they've got old injuries or medical conditions that means it's too risky to send them down. Some people aren't eligible on a personal level because they can't be trusted, or because they think that the stress will make them snap. I know Radia pointed out the whole bipolar thing with you, but you're fine enough for the shrinks to sign off on it. That's not a deal breaker. The captain's big on neurodiversity and all that. As long as it's safe for you, then she's cool, Dave explains. I feel so included. Why wasn't Vicaire ever accepted? I thought that he applied over and over, you ask. Dave winces a little, and you have to wait a few long seconds before he answers, every word careful and precise. What happened to Vicaire? The thing we can't talk about is we knew it might happen. Sending him to space would be a terrible idea, but in the situation we needed him badly enough that some people thought the risk was worth it. You're one of the ones who said he shouldn't, you guess. Not just me, Dave corrects you. But outside of the ship is space. Why was that okay? You press him. It wasn't, Dave points out. The memory of Vicaire's last moments make you shudder, and yeah, Dave has a point there. In fairness, the outside of the ship is almost never a problem. Someone fucked up and we're looking into it, I guess. But I can't tell you about it, Dave adds. You nod. You're frustrated by what you can't know, but you're starting to get the shape of the problem just by the edges of what you can and can't be told. Dave seems very clear in his opinion that you're better off not knowing. He might be right, but that's never stopped you. You should change, Dave says. At the person, yeah, KK tells me all the time. You snort. I know, right? God, no. You're getting changed to work out because there are billions of lives riding on whether or not I can put you through enough physical training to get you to pass the test. So get changed, we've got work to do, Dave says, shoving you towards your block. Fuck, you hate exercise. Why are you doing this? Right, billions of lives. For the record, I hate this, you tell him as you go into your block and shut the door like a normal person. You don't need to like it. Oh wait, you can just make out Dave through the door, but you figure you'll leave him to whatever he's doing. You're not exactly a working out kind of person. You have sweatpants for laying around the hive or sometimes sleeping in, and you have t-shirts you care less about than other ones. You don't really have proper running shoes, but you do have shoes that are kind of close. People in converts with them do sporty things like ride skateboards and play basketball. You've never done either while wearing them, but maybe it'll work. Fully changed and not all that ready, you open the door and come face to face with a grinning Dave who's holding his palm husk. A tune starts playing, not one you know, but the lyrics start up. You don't realize why you probably don't need it. I don't speak Spanish, you remind him. Shit, hold on. I need you to let me translate the title and try again. Dave frowns. I don't know the tune either, you add. No, it's an iconic kids movie. Let's make a man out of you, Dave flounders. I am already a man. What are you talking about? You squint at him. Forget it. I never say this, but for once I actually miss being around humans. Humans I'm not related to, Dave says unhappily. Was there a point to this? You asked him. It doesn't matter. Come on, I need to put you on a treadmill until you throw up or pass out. Hopefully the second thing, Dave says and steers you out of your room. I also vote the second thing, or neither. Neither would be good, you say nervously as Dave continues to push you out of your hive. You skid to a stop before the door, or putting your psionics into it. To really stop Dave moving you. You duck out of his grip and turn so you can face him properly. Two things. You start, and Dave opens his mouth like he's going to get it on your case about, of course it's two things, but you start before he can say it. First, the guy whose job I'm taking just died. How likely is the same going to happen to me? I've got no way of knowing because you won't tell me what really happened. Is something going to make me do something like that? How in danger am I here? And you ask. Any teasing evaporates from Dave's expression. He shifts a little, looking away from you, and it's a few moments before he speaks. Like I said before, the care shouldn't have been considered for the job, and what happened to him right outside the ship is it doesn't really happen to this ship. There's stuff and people in place, so that's that. But getting in a small ship and going out into a space station and then on and off a planet has risks. If math nerds fuck the numbers up, you can be dead in all sorts of creative ways, and launching a ship off the planet is as safe as they can make it, but still basically fucking with explosives in sciencey ways. There's a risk there. Plus, it's a cold planet and weather can kill. All that said, though, we don't lose people very often. It's pretty much the most dangerous job out there. But it's not like we're out here juggling chainsaws in the universe's thinnest spacesuit, Dave tells you. Okay, I can probably deal with that. Second question, how long is this training usually for being a sailor, given that we've got, less than 2 months or something, you ask? It's pretty much always 2 years, Dave says firmly. What? You yelp. Okay, that sounds worse than it is. I've got to cut this down to time right. I've been doing the numbers in my head since you got dumped in my lap, and I think it's reasonably doable. Sort of, Dave insists. Sort of, you repeat. Well, okay, you're not going to be a sailor in that time. For a start, you need 1,000 hours in external time logged, either on stations or in zero-G or spacewalks outside a ship like ours, or test pod things. That takes time to build up because most people training can't access to bang that out as quick as. But you don't need that training. I'm not asking you to repair anything on the ship or on the space station. Your job is on planet, so I can cut all that technical training out. You're already qualified in your job, so that's done. You'd be a specialist anyway. Basic equipment and weather training is going to be easy because Nepetta's already putting weather training on, and I know Jake will help me train you in equipment. When it comes to the actual stuff you're repairing for the mission, Roxy's got you. You don't need to know how to maintain tech for desert planets because we're not doing that. It cuts time down. Dave starts to list off. But there is more to that, isn't it? You said there was 2 years, didn't you? Well, yeah, I'll have to run you through basic communications in case there's an emergency, but that'll be something we can cram through in the evenings as well as other emergency procedures. I can skip training you to do anything in the shuttle or station and basically treat you as cargo. Other than that, I just have to get you fit enough to fly and have Roxy tell you how to repair all of the stuff, the duplicates we have on board. It's doable, I'm sure. Dave nods. But 2 years, though, you repeat. Like I said, it's not always that for everyone, and you're already trained in the speciality that you'd have. So even if you were suddenly going out of your way to be a fully qualified sailor, which isn't what you're doing, you'd already be a good part of the way there. Some people do it faster, and you just need to be safe to fly, he tries to tell you. And how long did that take you? You ask. Do you trust me or not? Dave challenges you, seemingly no longer willing to engage with your questions and concerns. His sharp black and red eyes have you pinned in place, and you wonder for a moment if they seem more than you know. You have to answer him. I guess enough not to get me killed. I don't think you'd agree to this if you thought my life was in real and immediate danger, you say slowly. Dave's expression softens for how hostile your day has been with him, and it's pretty obvious from that look that he doesn't want you dead. Of course I wouldn't. I don't want to make this torture either, even if some of it's going to suck. But just trust me on this. I wouldn't put you through more than I think you can take, he says gently. You don't know what to say to that. Instinctively, you feel like it's a thing that you need to say something to in response, but you've got nothing. Your entire think sponge is just error, connection, timed out. So when you scramble to realize that you have to say something, the first thing that comes to mind is your most basic programming. To be kind of an asshole about things. Like, you know what I can take. You're underestimating me. I was hatched to fly, unlike you. You sneer at him and spark enough psionics to illustrate your point. Red and blue flashes off the walls and off the white of Dave's shirt. It reflects in the dark artificial eyes, and more concerningly, it leads a certain menace to the very slight smile that's cracked onto his face. All right, flyboy, let's go and you can show me. I am thinking about a line that was said here that I will be thinking about for a while. I don't know if other people will think about it. Foreshadowing, kind of. Alright, flyboy, let's go, you can show. Dave says, and with that he pushes you towards the door for a final time. It occurs to you in increments that you might be out of your depth here. See, shit-talking is a basic function for you because typically you can easily back it up. You're the best at video games, at tech, at hacking. When you make a boast, you can do it. As Dave walks you into what you can only assume is the private gym for the sailors, you start to realize this is probably not something you should have mouthed off about. So for today, I want to work out where we are. I've already got stuff on the way from Jane. Basically, I want to establish a baseline. Dave explains as he walks you past all kinds of equipment. Using the monitor? You ask wearily. Yeah. Jane should have sent me what I need to be able to check it out remotely. You should stretch while I check. Dave advises you, coming to a stop on a mat by a long mirror. Uneasily, you stretch your back by linking your hands and pushing them ahead of you. You move your arms to cross one over the other to loosen your shoulder joints. As you're tipping your head to the side, you see Dave looking at you, disbelieving you. You're not spending the day sat at a desk. So okay. Let's just have you copy me instead. That'll be easier, Dave suggests. He drops his palm husk to the mat near his feet and stands to your side. Feet together, just lean down and touch your toes, like this, or the floor, like this. Dave says casually and then somehow folds himself the fuck in half and hugs his knees. What the shit? How can you bend like that? You squawk. Just show me what you can do, he suggests. You try to replicate his move, but you can't reach the floor at all, much less do what he's doing. Hey, as long as you can feel that in the back of your legs, you're good, Dave says simply. You can feel it in the back of your legs, all right, there and everywhere else. Dave leads you through a whole series of stretches that you apparently can't do at all and leaves you vaguely suspicious that someone has stolen Dave's bones. When he's done torturing you in a in a variety of unfun shapes. Dave lets you sit down to have a drink of water. Alright, so like I was saying, Jane's handed me access to all of your vital stuff, so we're going to sit here and try and get something close to your resting blood pressure rate. Really, it'll be more accurate by tomorrow morning because I'll have it when you've slept, but this'll do for now. Essentially, the lower the number, or the better. Well, unless it's 0, because then you're dead, Dave explains. What's mine right now, you ask? It's 80, but you're a psionic and pretty warm-blooded too, so that bumps you up a little anyway. Dave hedges. Cool, what's yours? You ask him flatly. 50. But I'm a different species and I've always done this. Like I said, it's just a benchmark. Come on. Dave says hurriedly and gets you up, but it doesn't take the sting out of his results being that much better. Here's my thinking here. I'll start with the thing you'll probably hate the most, and the rest won't be so bad. Yeah? Dave suggests as he walks to the treadmill. You're not selling this, you point out. Dave shakes his head and weighs you onto the treadmill anyway. Cautiously, you get onto it, and Dave sets it at a sensible walking pace. I'll spare you the technicalities on this one, but essentially, how the test goes is, in a minute I set this to a running speed. You do that for a few minutes, and then I crank up the angle a bit, go a few more, and then repeat. It's a stress test, basically. It shows your endurance, but it's important that you keep going until you really, really can't go anymore, or we get to the end, Dave explains. Just so I have an idea, what happened the first time you did this? You ask him. The first time I did this officially, I was already trained. Different protocols, different people training have different methods, and this is better. I've seen people start like this before, and it tends to be a little rough the first time. Dave tells you. What did you do instead? You ask him. Enough procrastinating, here we go, Dave says and reaches over and hits the speed button until it gets to something where you're staggering to catch up. Dave, avoiding how he learned how to be physically fit. Most of you here have probably read Homestuck. Anyway, let's ignore Dave just not telling us things about himself and continue. Try not to use your psionics unless it's like that. I don't want you eating treadmill, but don't cheat either, Dave says. Holy shit, this is a fast run. This is sprinting for the train because you're seriously late kind of running. You're already out of breath and you want to stop already. You never do this kind of thing willingly and instinctively you want to stop. But if you were late for the train at this point, you'd say fuck it and accept that you're late. But this isn't about you. Billions of lives rely on the resources on Somnos, and they need you to keep the machines working. This isn't about you. All the same, you feel like you're about to die when Dave leans over again. With one hand, he ups the incline on the treadmill, and you feel his other hand goes to your back. Is he ready to catch you if you fall? You don't have time to think about it because this incline made stuff much harder. You glance at Dave and nearly lose your footing in the process. Hey, no, keep your eyes ahead. It's easier that way. Dave warns you. How many? You gasp and flail a hand at the incline button. A few more times. Don't think about it. Just keep going. Imagine you're being chased if that helps. Dave suggests. It doesn't help. You can't do this. Your pride and your understanding of how dire the situation is means that you can't get off. You can't stop and claim you can't do more. You think your blood pusher is about to explode, though. You want to bite him as Dave reaches over and pulls the incline up again. You scramble to keep up, but one of your legs buckles underneath you. It all happens so fast. The treadmill rising to meet you, but it doesn't touch you. Instead, an arm impacts your chest and you're hauled backwards onto the floor, coughing and gasping for air. Your vision is black around the edges, and you feel like you're one of the imminently deceased that you hear from. Dave leans over you, his bleached hair like a halo in a shitty gym strip lighting. He pulls your hair back from sweat slick forehead and fans you with the other hand. Hey man, it's okay. You did good. He tells you gently. Something in your dying expression must convey a sense of disbelief given what he says to you next. No, really, you did. I said run until you can't anymore, and you did. I see so many people get told to do shit to failure for training, and they just pussy out before that point. But you did. I've way more time and hope for someone who'll actually do that, Dave tells you. You nod shakily, more to let him know that you heard. Stay here, Dave says quietly, like you're going anywhere anytime soon. He vanishes for a moment and comes back with a cup of cool water, which he gently presses to your temple. Hold that there, Dave says, and it tells you, and weakly you bring your hand up to your head and manage to keep the blessedly cool cup in place. He pulls out your legs so they're bent at the knee with your feet flat on the floor. You can feel how every muscle you have is trembling. There you go. Your pulse is coming down. Feel better? Dave asks. I feel like I died. You rasp. Cardio's a bitch, huh? But it's that pressure on your blood pressure that you need to develop. The stronger that muscle is, the easier it is to not pass out or die under pressure in the space shuttle, Dave tells you. You focus on breathing in deeply, no longer tripping over yourself for every breath and each molecule of oxygen. You're able to blink the stars from your eyes carefully, and you let your psionic spark. So much for catching yourself if you fall. Thanks. I would have fallen and knocked my teeth out or something, you say, your voice a little shakily. Not on my watch, Dave tells you as he peers at his palm husk. What's the damage? You question him, meaning the monitor's reading. You could probably check your arm yourself, but that is effort, and you really don't know how to interpret things well. A little clumsily, you roll onto your side and weakly drink the water in the cup that Dave gave you. Your blood pressure rate got too many. Don't worry about the exact and very high numbers, but the good news is that you're recovering reasonably quickly considering how bad that got, which I'm guessing is a psionic thing. The other telekinetically inclined trolls I know in the program have good recovery times too, so you have that going for you, Dave says thoughtfully. You nod and rest your sweaty forehead on the sweaty floor. Everything is sweaty. You feel like Equius, only nowhere near as ripped. As you lay there, a horrible thought steals over you. You said this was first. What's the other stuff? You ask, knowing the answer won't be pizza and a nap, but somehow you were really hoping it would be. Gonna work on your 1 rep max for a few things. Again, I'm cutting the range of stuff you'd be tested on way down for the sake of improving key things well, rather than doing everything sort of okay at the end, Dave explains. Definitely not pizza, then. Dave eventually convinces you to get up off the floor, and you follow him jelly-legged into an area of the gym that's set up with weights and bars and ropes, no doubt for all kinds of ominous purposes. He works you through things, and to Dave's credit, whenever you can't do something, he changes things around until it's something you can do. He's also very firm on you not cheating with your psionics and is super unimpressed by your nun-handed pull-up. He asks you to do push-ups, you can't. He changes it and gets you into place where you can do about 5 very shitty ones from your knees. He's not satisfied with that and changes it back further until your form on a leaning against something push-up is perfect. It feels humiliating to have to change things that much, though. This is pointless. I could do the other one on my knees, you protest. It's not pointless. You need to be able to do things perfectly before you change, or you'll have crappy foundations for future stuff. It's the same way that, okay, look. Dave gets up and leads you over to the pull-up bars again. After your hands-free version, Dave got you into a place where you could do something with big rubber bands assisting you. Let's say you want to do 10 pull-ups, right? We get people in their first week here thinking they're hot shit. We ask for 10 and they do something like this. Dave explains. He jumps to the bar and gets through 10 so fast he almost blurs, but the movement is wild and the bar earth kind of jolt a little at the force of it. He drops down to face you again and gestures to where he just was. They like bang out these shittiest things, and then when we tell them that we expect it properly, they fail because tell me what looks like it takes more effort and skill. Watch. Dave explains and jumps up there again. This time, you look up as Dave almost achingly slowly but perfectly smoothly moves through the pull-ups. He pauses at the top of each movement, and you can see that his muscles are working on the slow descent and not dropping to jerk back up into another one. When he's done after some time, he drops to the floor again. I'm roughly translating what I told you, but fast shit's still shit. I'm not sending you out with shit form that'll blow your back out or hurt you, just so you can say you're on a higher level of it. Having ego about that stuff just gets you hurt, he tells you. You hate being humiliated by how unfit you are, or is on you, not just because it's how you are, but that's your fault. Dave isn't trying to make you feel shit about it. Half-assing isn't the way to go. Half-assing isn't the way to go, you conclude, and Dave nods. It's weird. You've never really seen Dave like the other sailors. Aradia found the tests fun, but she finds planetary hikes to look at rocks fun. She's always been active like that. Gamzee clearly gets off on being physically threatening, even if he's not overtly muscular, and Jake's built like an action hero who enjoys the attention. They're the kind of people you associate with the job. Dave isn't ever someone you've thought of like that. He doesn't look as obvious as Jake, and he doesn't go out of his way to talk about what he does ever. You hadn't thought of him as someone who knows all about this stuff and has opinions on stuff like this, but then you hadn't thought of Dave much at all before all of this. What now? You ask instead of saying any of that. I think dinner now. Shower and then dinner. Whatever you're in the mood for. Dave says cheerfully. You'd weep with joy if you didn't think you'd sweated away all the moisture your body ever had contained. You're just a withered husk now. A withered husk without pizza. Pizza, you tell him. Hell yes, Dave nods. So that was chapter 7. That was a fun little thing-a-me. Not little, it took like 2 hours. We're pretty much done now. I don't really have extra after stream activities or anything, but I hope you all enjoyed. I know some people came in during the stream, and I know some people look at the VOD after, so thanks for coming either way, and I hope I see you again whenever I decide to do the next chapter, which, I mean, I might get it done this weekend, but I probably won't be free to do this again for a week, because I am quite busy next week doing things and stuff. Anyways, that is the end of the stream. I hope you have a good night. Good night!